"Sir, this is my drawing." How a child inspired a billionaire to do charity work. Times Square pulsed like a living beast, its neon heartbeat flashing across the faces of tourists and hustlers. 10-year-old Jamal Williams, a wiry black boy, with a spark in his dark eyes, threaded through the chaos. His worn sneakers slapping the pavement, his treasure a battered sketchbook tightly under his arm, held sketches of New York's jagged skyline, blooming parks, and dreamscapes, where no one judged him for the shelter address on his school forms. Back in the Bronx, at the Hope Haven shelter, Miss Ellen Carter, a social worker with a tight braid and a voice that could soothe or scold, was his rock. "Jamal, your drawings are magic," she'd said that morning, sliding a warm muffin across the shelter's chipped kitchen table. Her smile was a lighthouse in his storm. "Don't let those kids dull your shine." Jamal's shoulders slumped, his fingers tracing the muffin's crumbs. "They laughed at my sketch in art class. Miss Ellen called me trash boy, 'cause I live here." She knelt, her brown eyes fierce. "You listen to me. You draw from your heart, and that's worth more than their words. Keep that sketchbook close." He nodded, clutching the book like a shield. It was his escape from the taunts, the hunger, the pitying glances. Each page held a piece of him, a vision of a world where he wasn't invisible. Across the city, in a glass-walled penthouse on Fifth Avenue, Andrew Clark stood like a statue, staring at the Manhattan sprawl below. The real estate tycoon, with his sharp jaw and tailored suit, was a titan in boardrooms, but his reflection showed a man hollowed by guilt. His latest deal, raising a Bronx community center for a luxury tower, had added millions to his fortune but carved a deeper wound in his soul. Memories of his mother, a volunteer who'd once painted with kids in that center, haunted him. Her laughter, her warmth, felt like accusations now. His assistant, Retracin, strode in, his polished shoes clicking on the marble floor. His smirk was as sharp as his suit. "Andrew, the Bronx Tower's on track. Forget that old community shack. No one cares." Andrew's grip tightened on his coffee mug, his knuckles whitening. "It wasn't a shack, Richard. Kids grew up there." Richard waved a hand, scrolling through his tablet. "Sentiment won't pay the bills. This tower's your legacy." Andrew turned back to the window, his mother's face flashing in his mind, her hands smudged with paint, her voice singing to him as a boy. He'd buried those memories under contracts and ambition, but they clawed back now, back on Times Square. Jamal paused at a blinking billboard. Clark Enterprises Art Contest for Kids win a scholarship to Pinnacle Art Academy. His heart leaped. A scholarship could mean a future, a way out of the shelter's gray walls. He flipped open his sketchbook to his favorite drawing, a vibrant reimagining of the old community center, its walls alive with murals, kids dancing in a courtyard. But a sudden gust tore the page free, sending it spiraling into the crowd. "No, no, no!" Jamal cried, dodging elbows as he chased it. The paper landed at the feet of a tall man in a wool coat. Andrew Clark bent down, his fingers brushing the colorful sketch. The image hit him like a punch at the center, alive again. Through a child's eyes, Jamal skidded to a halt, his breath ragged. "Sir, that's my drawing," he shouted, his voice cracking with desperation. Andrew looked up, startled by the boy's fire. Their eyes locked, Jamal's defiant, Andrew's searching. In the crowd, an elderly woman, Mrs. Rosa Davis, watched quietly, her silver hair framed, a face etched with stories. She'd taught art at that center, known Andrew's mother, and seen the boy he used to be. The drawing, a fragile bridge between past and present, had just fallen into the right hands. Andrew held the drawing, its colors vivid against the gray of Times Square. The community center, with its imagined gardens and laughing children, stirred something he'd long suppressed. He saw his mother smile in the strokes, her dreams in the lines. "You drew this?" he asked, his voice softer than he meant. Jamal nodded, his hands trembling but his chin high. "Yes, sir. That was my place, where I learned to draw before." His voice trailed off, the pain raw. Andrew's throat tightened. He knew what came next. His company's bulldozers. "What's your name, kid?" "Jamal Williams," the boy said, clutching his sketchbook like armor. Richard Mason pushed through the crowd, his eyes narrowing. "Andrew, we're late for the gala. Drop the paper and let's go." Andrew's jaw clenched. "Hold on, Richard." He turned to Jamal. "You're in the contest, right? Come show me more." Richard's laugh was sharp. "A street kid." "Andrew, come on." "He's not a street kid," Andrew snapped, slipping the drawing into his pocket. "See you at the contest, Jamal." Jamal's heart raced as he ran back to the shelter, his sneakers pounding the pavement. Bursting into the kitchen, he found Miss Ellen sorting laundry, her hands quick but gentle. "Miss Ellen, you won't believe it," he panted. "This guy, Mr. Clark, the rich guy, took my drawing. He wants me in the contest." She set down a shirt, her brow furrowing. "Clark, as in Clark's Enterprises." Her voice held a warning. "Be careful, Jamal. Men like him don't always see us." "But he saw my drawing," Jamal insisted, his eyes bright. "Maybe he'll listen." Miss Ellen sighed, pulling him into a hug. "All right, baby, let's make sure they hear you." She rummaged through a filing cabinet, pulling out faded photos of the old center kids painting, laughing, dreaming. "These'll help you tell your story." At the contest, held in a gleaming midtown gallery, Jamal set up his sketches, his hands shaking. His drawings stood out among the polished entries, raw, honest, alive. Across the room, Mrs. Rosa Davis approached, her cane tapping softly, her eyes warm with memory. "Your work's got heart, young man," she said, studying his sketch of the center. "Reminds me of a boy I knew long ago. His mama loved that place." Jamal blinked, her words heavy with meaning he couldn't grasp. "Thanks, ma'am. I just want it back." On stage, Andrew sat with the judges, the drawing burning in his jacket. Richard leaned close, his voice a hiss. "Don't let this kid distract you, Andrew. He's nobody." But Andrew's eyes stayed on Jamal, the boy's courage cutting through his cynicism. The drawing, his mother's dream. Jamal's hope was a thread tying them together, pulling Andrew toward a past he couldn't ignore. Over the next month, Jamal became a fixture at Clark Enterprises. His sneakers squeaked on the marble floors of Andrew's office, where he spread out sketches of a new community center, gardens bursting with flowers, studios glowing with light, kids painting murals. Andrew leaned over the table, his usual scowl softening. "This is incredible," he said, tracing a sketch of a courtyard. "You've got vision, Jamal." Jamal grinned, his chest swelling. "It's not just a building, Mr. Clark. It's where kids like me can belong. You ever had a place like that?" Andrew froze, memories flooding back, his mother's hand guiding his as he painted in the old center, her laughter filling the air. "Yeah," he said quietly, "a long time ago." But Richard Mason saw the shift and didn't like it. In the boardroom, he spread rumors, his voice dripping with disdain. "This kid's playing you, Andrew, a shelter brat with big eyes. He's after your money." Andrew's eyes narrowed. "Watch it, Richard. It's got more integrity than half this board." Richard didn't stop. He forged documents, claiming Jamal had stolen sensitive files from the office. At a staff meeting, he slid the papers across the table, his smile cold. "Proof," he said. "The kid's a liability." Andrew's fists clenched under the table. "I'll look into it," he said. But doubt crept in. Jamal, oblivious to the plot, faced his own battles. At school, classmates taunted him, their words sharp as knives. "Think you're big time now, huh? Begging from billionaires." One sneered, shoving him in the hall. That night, Jamal curled up in his bunk, his sketchbook unopened. Miss Ellen found him, her shadow falling across the bed. "What's wrong, baby? They think I'm a fake," Jamal whispered, his voice breaking. "Maybe I am. What's a kid like me gonna do?" She sat beside him, her hand warm on his shoulder. "You're no fake. You're a fighter." She pulled out a folder of old blueprints from the center, their edges yellowed. "Use these. Show them what that place meant." Jamal's eyes lit up, his resolve hardening. He worked late, weaving the blueprints into his designs, each stroke a defiance of the doubts. Meanwhile, Mrs. Rosa invited Andrew to a community event in the Bronx, held in a drafty church basement. Under flickering lights, she shared stories of the old center. "Your mother, Elizabeth, believed every child deserved a chance," Rosa said, her voice steady but piercing. "She'd walk through that door, paint on her hands, smiling like the sun. She'd be heartbroken to see it gone." Andrew's chest ached, his mother's face vivid in his mind. "I was just a kid when she died. I didn't know what it meant to her." "You know now," Rosa said, handing him a faded photo of his mother with a group of kids, paintbrushes in hand. "What you do with that is up to you." The photo burned in Andrew's pocket as he returned to his office. He started defending Jamal to the board, but Richard doubled down. He leaked a story to the press. *Billionaire duped by shelter kid. The headline hit Jamal like a slap, flashing on a classmate's phone during lunch. "I'm not a liar," Jamal shouted, storming out of the cafeteria, tears stinging his eyes. Miss Ellen found him in the shelter's courtyard, sketching furiously under a dim streetlight. "You're stronger than their lies," she said, kneeling beside him. "Finish this. For you, for the kids who need that center." Jamal nodded, wiping his face. "I will, Miss Ellen, I promise." He and Andrew met again, this time in a quiet diner, away from the office's glare. Andrew slid the original drawing across the table, its edges worn. "I kept this," he said, his voice rough. "It reminds me of her, my mom." Jamal's lip trembled. "You really believe in me, Mr. Clark?" "More than you know," Andrew said, his eyes glistening. "And I'm sorry for what I took from you. I want to make it right." Their bond deepened, but the board pushed back. At a tense meeting, Richard unveiled a glossy skyscraper model, dismissing Jamal's center as a charity case. Andrew's resolve wavered, the weight of his empire pressing down. That night, Jamal sat under his bunk's flashlight, staring at his drawing of the old center. "I won't let them win," he whispered, his pencil moving again. Mrs. Rosa sent Andrew a letter, enclosing another photo, his mother laughing with kids, including a young Rosa. "She'd want you to fight for this," it read. Andrew clutched it, tears falling onto the paper. The shareholders' meeting filled a midtown ballroom with chandeliers and egos. Andrew stood at the podium, his notes for the skyscraper pitch trembling in his hands. Jamal's drawing, tucked in his jacket, felt heavier than the room's expectations. The board watched, their eyes hungry for profit. Backstage, Jamal slipped in with Miss Ellen, who'd bribed a guard with her famous pecan pie. He clutched a folder of sketches and blueprints, his heart pounding like a drum. "I can't do this," he whispered, his hands shaking. "You can," Miss Ellen said, gripping his shoulders. "You've got truth on your side." Andrew's voice echoed through the hall. "Our Bronx tower will redefine the skyline," he began, but his words felt hollow. He glanced at the crowd, spotting Mrs. Rosa in the front row, her eyes urging him on. Jamal couldn't wait. He stepped into the spotlight, his sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. The crowd gasped, murmurs rippling like waves. "Sir, this is my drawing," he shouted, holding up his sketch of the new center gardens. Studios hope in every line. "This is what the Bronx needs, not another tower." Richard leaped up, his face red. "Security, get this kid out." Andrew raised a hand, his voice thunderous. "Let him speak." Jamal's knees wobbled, but he pushed on. "I'm from a shelter. I lost my place, the center where I learned to draw, where I felt like I mattered." His voice cracked, but he held up his sketches. "We can build this for kids like me who just need a chance." The room fell silent. Shareholders leaning forward. Andrew's eyes glistened, his mother's voice echoing in his head. Richard sneered, stepping forward. "This is a stunt. He's a thief. Check the records." Miss Ellen marched forward, her braid swinging. "Those records are lies." She handed Andrew a USB drive. "Here's proof." Richard faked them. Andrew plugged it in, and the projector lit up with Richard's emails, orders to forge documents. "To smear Jamal." The board gasped, their murmurs turning to outrage. Richard's face paled. Jamal faced Andrew, his voice steady now. "You tore down my home, Mr. Clark, but you can build something better, will you?" Andrew's shoulders sagged, then straightened. He stepped to the podium, his voice raw. "I've built towers that mean nothing. I tore down a place that gave kids like Jamal a future. That stops now." He held up Jamal's drawing. "We're building this center for the Bronx, for my mother." The room erupted, some cheered, others shouted objections. Mrs. Rosa clapped slowly, her smile radiant. "That's Elizabeth's boy," she whispered, tears in her eyes. Richard stormed out, his career crumbling. Andrew pulled Jamal into a hug, the drawing crinkling between them. "You did it, kid," he whispered. Jamal's eyes shone. "We did it." The board, swayed by Andrew's passion and the public's outcry, greenlit the community center. Andrew launched the Elizabeth Clark Foundation, naming Jamal as its youth advisor. Architects poured over his sketches, turning his vision into blueprints. The Bronx site, once rubble, began to bloom. At the shelter, Miss Ellen framed Jamal's scholarship letter from Pinnacle Art Academy. "You're a star, baby," she said, her voice thick with pride. Jamal hugged her, his grin wide. "Couldn't have done it without you, Miss Ellen." His drawings went on display in a Manhattan gallery, curated by Miss Ellen. Crowds marveled at the work of a 10-year-old who'd changed a tycoon's heart. Mrs. Rosa spoke at the opening, her voice carrying decades of memory. "This center was love," she said, gesturing to Jamal's sketches, "and now it's hope reborn." Andrew visited the construction site weekly, watching gardens take shape where bulldozers once roared. One day, he handed Jamal a leather-bound sketchbook, its cover embossed with his name. "For your next dreams," Andrew said, his voice soft. Jamal's eyes widened. "You didn't have to, Mr. Clark. I wanted to," Andrew replied, ruffling his hair. Richard faded from the scene, his influence gone. The center's groundbreaking drew hundreds, with Mrs. Rosa cutting the ribbon, her hands steady despite her age. Jamal stood beside her, his chest swelling with pride. A year later, the Elizabeth Clark Community Center buzzed with life. Kids painted murals, their laughter echoing through sunlit studios. Jamal, now 11 and thriving at art school, led a drawing class, his confidence a beacon. "Draw what you feel," he told a shy girl, echoing Miss Ellen's words. She smiled, her pencil moving. Andrew, in jeans and a sweater, stopped by, watching Jamal teach. He saw his mother's spirit in the boy's kindness, her legacy alive in the walls. Miss Ellen, now the center's program director, greeted him with a nod. "He's something special," she said, her braid catching the light. "He is," Andrew agreed, his voice catching. Mrs. Rosa, her memoir about the old center, now a local bestseller, read to the kids, her stories weaving past and present. In the lobby, Jamal's original drawing hung in a gilded frame, its title etched below. "Sir, this is my drawing." As Andrew left, the center's lights glowed against the dusk. The guilt that once choked him was gone, replaced by purpose. Jamal's courage had rebuilt more than a building knit had rebuilt him.